place in corporate place. We'll groove through it all in funky ways. So join us now, let's find our way. Listen to bits and pivots every single day. Ooh, get money, get paid.
Hey, today's episode is with a gentleman called Fidel Cache Flow, and cache is Cache. So it's a little like, double entendre, maybe a play on words. I don't know. But Fidel, it's not his real name. I cleared that up with him. Straight up asked him if his mama named him that, and he said no. But I recently, just over this past year, I started getting more active on Twitter, and what I notice is like there's these little pockets where it's just like a lot of people posting about sales, and he's like a big sales influencer on Twitter. But a lot of the people on Twitter, they have these anonymized accounts where they have weird names like Fidel Cache Flow, and so Fidel is an enterprise AE. He's in his late 20s. He's super driven. And the thing I wanted to talk to him about specifically that he kind of has as a side hustle is what's called SDR contract stacking. So what he teaches in his sales group is how people who are BDRs or sales reps, they can get 1099 contracts to be BDRs for, like, usually it sounds like early stage startups that can't really bring someone on full time. And how you can get multiple contracts at once, right? Because with AI and all these different automation platforms, you can really operationalize the BDR role to a great degree. So you can get like 2 or 3 of these contracts and make over 6 figures a year just doing BDR work. And you're not beholden to an employer. You're kind of like a hired gun. And so I'd never heard of that before until I got on quote unquote sales Twitter. And it just kind of blew my mind, right? So I figured it would be a great topic to bring to the podcast because we're talking about, all these different career options for sellers and BDRs. And I think this is an awesome option for someone who's like maybe sick of corporate America or, just kind of wants to be more independent and have more autonomy. It's like, fuck it, I'm just going to book meetings, invest in my own tech stack, and do it for multiple companies. And if I don't like the company, I'll stop working for them. And I'm just going to make money hand over fist. So we talk about his background. We talk about contract stacking and some of these other things like high ticket closing, which he's not a part of, which is a really curious thing that's talked about in sales Twitter a lot. So listen, listen to the episode. Is very, very interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks.
Hey, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Appreciate the patience. Was getting everything downloaded and set up. I like the setup, man.
Oh, thanks. Was it because I don't know like what the experience is too much for like on the customer end. So do you have to like download a bunch of shit to get in here?
I mean, it's pretty easy. You just got to download the application if you're on mobile.
Okay.
And
got it.
apparently
Got it.
upgrade the OS you're running on.
Oh,
So I saw like 15 minutes. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to wait for that.
Yeah. No, it's totally fine. Actually, I got in here at like the very last minute. I had to take my son to an appointment. So yeah, you weren't holding anything up. You gave me some much needed grace to kind of get settled here.
Perfect.
Cool. So let's see. Oh, before we get started, is there anything like you wanted me to not cover or anything like that?
I'm an open book.
Okay. Cool. So, did your mama name you Fidel Cache Flow?
She did not. However, that's what we're gonna roll with if it's okay with you for now.
Yeah, totally. No, I love the intrigue and the persona and everything. So, how did you come up with the name?
Man, it's funny because I was looking for a witty username, right? I feel like when we create like a username or a password, the creative muscle needs to be flexed. So
yeah,
was watching like some History Channel about Cuba and the Bay of Pigs, right? And was thinking about scrolling the timeline, some Twitter threads about software sales, and I was like, hey, let's have a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek play on words with cash, right? Instead of Fidel
Yeah.
Castro Cache Flow. So
Yeah, I love
there
it.
we have it.
No, and I'm horrible at that too. It used to come up in fantasy football all the time when I used to play fairy tale football. Like you got to come up with like a cool team name, and I would suck at it. It would just be shit.
Yeah, yeah.
So this podcast, it's just career focused. We don't talk really about sales tactics or anything like that at all, and it's really for I want the listeners to learn like how to come up with like a better career strategy. So if you're like a BDR who wants to get into enterprise sales, we talk about those types of things. If you're an AE who wants to get into leadership, we talk about those types of things, or just anything really career related. So the reason I wanted to talk to you is because I'm pretty much new to Twitter, and you're like a big baller over on Twitter. And when I got in there, there's like all this new stuff that I never even heard about, like high ticket closer. Like, what the fuck is that? I have no clue.
Right.
Or like you in particular, contract stacking. Like I wanted to learn more about contract stacking. I'm sure that people that listen to this podcast, could benefit from something like that. But before we get into all that, I was hoping to just kind of unpack your background a little bit. And like, from what I understand, you worked your way through college, contract stacking as a BDR. And then by the time you got out of college, you had all this BDR experience and you were able to kind of, roll right into to a tech sales role. And I think you worked at you work at Oracle and you worked at Intuit, if I remember right. Do I have any, am I way off on any of that, by the way?
No, you're on the right track. So a stark contrast compared to a lot of folks that are on the Twitter sales space. We call it money Twitter for whatever reason. I come from a traditional corporate background, right? So got started early in the game, was introduced to tech sales like back in high school. I've shared the story before, like was introduced. My girlfriend at the time was babysitting for an RVP at Hewlett Packard, right? Saw the nice home, gated community. I said, what does he do? That's what I'm going to do when I get into college and graduate. So joined a university that had a professional B2B sales program and got acclimated from everything like sales tools, running cold calls, prospecting, etc. That really fast tracked my career. And having that on my LinkedIn profile and being associated with that university got some attraction from organizations that were looking to hire BDRs. And unfortunately, right, you can't work at some organizations, public companies, without a degree. There's still that barrier to entry. So some of the smaller startups and players just in the local area that had a presence on LinkedIn, that were looking for talent, a part of those professional university selling programs, brokered an introduction, got started as a BDR for a pre-seed startup company while I was at university. Did that for 2 years till I graduated and placed myself inside of Intuit as an SMB account executive. And, since then I've spent 5 years going on 6 now in software sales and have been slowly working my way up market to currently at a quote unquote enterprise title account executive role. Deal sizes,
Nice.
to clarify, are more mid-market in the 6-figure range.
Sure. No, that's awesome. Thanks for like the concise background there. I'm curious about the like the sales program at the college you went to. Did you find it to be useful when you first like joined the workforce? Some of the curriculum that you guys went through as a part of the university curriculum, like was there some pretty good carryover into the real world, or was it just sort of like a lot of things in school where it's like, oh, we're never going to use this shit?
Now, the program, I think I was in a blessed position to join a great program and a university that had a track record of successful reps graduating from that program. The director, if I could dox and say the name, I'll give him all of the credit, was a very hands-on experience and not what you would expect from college or university. So I do think it prepared a lot of the students that paid attention in class and utilized a lot of the skills they helped develop. However, I will also say having that hands-on experience working as a BDR, taking that program, going to school is really what made the difference.
Oh yeah. Nice. And this is one like a horrible trick that I'm dying for someone to try. But you mentioned like, oh, you couldn't get hired because you didn't have your degree just yet. And I didn't finish college. So, I kind of went through the thing where you have to have like a 4-year degree or equivalent work experience. So I had to get the work experience
Yep.
out of a boiler room to be able to get the entry level thing. But I'm telling people, if you Google defunct colleges and universities, and then you just put like the year that would be 4 or 5 years after you graduated high school, it'll list all these colleges that went out of business and like just say you went to one of those. And if they try to follow up, it's like, oh, there's no record of anything because it's a closed up shop. So don't tell anyone you heard it from me, but I'm dying for someone to try it and see if it actually works. In
Hey,
theory, it
you're
should
already
work.
getting acclimated to money Twitter. That's the sort of insights we try to
I love Twitter, and in particular like anon accounts. They're like, you're one of the better ones. Some of them are kind of hit or miss. Like some of them are on there just to troll and be vile and everything, but others it is really to give like sort of an unfiltered, unadulterated look at whatever it is, like finance, or in your case, enterprise software sales. So, like, when did you establish the Twitter account, and was the intention in the beginning always for it to be like what it is today?
No, it was not. I at first was a consumer of the space and got an early introduction back in about 2018. A close friend of mine introduced me to the space. I'm going to give a nod to Wall Street Playboys and Bowtie Bull. An anonymous finance account that was sharing insights about the finance world, personal finance, etc. That's really what birthed the space at large, right?
Mhm.
So got introduced, was following a lot of insights as it related to finance, and naturally, as I was back in that time, attending university, getting introduced to software sales, of course, was looking for some external help, given that I was working, directly with the founder, trying to build sales qualified pipelines. So was scouring the internet to find insights as it relates to software sales. Back then, we did not have the plentiful sales influencers on LinkedIn and Twitter now. So just
Sure.
try to consume as much information as possible. And as I continue to grow into my career, share the insights along the way.
Nice. Excellent. And do I have that right? Like you want to keep it kind of as a faceless account just because like you don't want any, like you want to have the freedom to be able to share like kind of the good, bad, ugly, warts and all experiences of your 9 to 5 work, as opposed to having to like maybe self edit like you would on like LinkedIn or something like that.
Yeah, I think you.
When you ask them what their goal is, they're like, oh, I want to get into enterprise sales. And it's like, great, that's a fucking like huge blanket statement. There's millions of different things that could be wildly different within enterprise selling environments. So when you look at a career goal statement like this and you really unpack it, you're really looking at like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables that you need to get educated on, where you can really create that fuck, this word's so hard. Like something very specific, specificity. I don't know, man. You know the word I'm trying to say. So you can create like a very specific statement like this, and also in 5 years' time, make it time bound. But I say like keep it to 5 years. It's cliche, the 5-year plan or whatever, but 5 years is a great portion of time because it's not like too long, it's not overwhelming, and within 5 years you can actually like do things that are actionable and you can see real changes kind of in real time. It's not like this slow thing that you're going to get bored by or overwhelmed by or something like that. So really what you need to do to come up with a statement like this and really start to get very specific and strategic with your career and start being happier at work and start, being more successful at work and making more money is you have to educate yourself on each of these 5 different variables that would go into really aligning yourself and your needs from 9 to 5 with a potential employer. So
I think you hit the nail on the head. It just did a assessment of what the risk and reward would look like at this point in my career. Relatively, I would still say I'm new in my career. I'd love
Yeah.
to stay in the tech sales space for the next 20 or 30 years, and you know, a small portion of that is also I like trolling sometimes too.
You can't resist, and it's like the perfect medium for that. It's just like the content, it's so quick and it has like such a short shelf life, but the reach is so enormous that I don't know, it's so tempting sometimes just to like, yeah, just troll. I always do it in the comments. I can't resist. Like I'll get on a tear when I'm over caffeinated and just leave a bunch of like non sequitur bullshit comments.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fun. It's good
It's sort
stuff.
of an outlet, especially working for larger organizations. That's sort of a lot of what I preach and share and insights for new
Yeah.
sales reps, kind of joining that established organization that has the infrastructure in place for you to succeed and just kind of replicating success. But being in those sort of environments, definitely have to put on an executive presence, and this is sort of an outlet to take the mask off and just be yourself unfiltered.
Definitely. Nice. Yeah. You keep it buttoned up at work and then you log on to Twitter and do a bunch of hood rat shit. I get it. So the main thing I wanted to talk to you about is contract stacking. Like what is this? Like it blows my mind that I had just never heard of it before. I'd never even imagined that a company would hire a BDR like as a sole person on a contract basis. And truthfully, I know nothing about it. So like, could you just explain it to me like you would explain it to a 5-year-old?
Yeah, great question. So the story behind that is it really became a light bulb moment as we went through the pandemic. That was, a major trigger event for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
being a part of the Twitter community, as well as Reddit, there's a Reddit thread called Overemployed, where a lot of
Yeah.
senior and software engineers realized a gap in the marketplace, or arbitrage, if you will, as we transitioned to a remote environment very quickly at some of these larger organizations. They did not have compliance to go fully remote. So it was really
Yeah.
the software engineers during the beginning of the pandemic that were picking up multiple roles as it related to their W-2 9 to 5. Right. So
Mhm.
there was a lot of chatter on Reddit as well as Twitter of these, senior software engineers that were working $300,000 roles and making,
Yeah.
$1 million per year. So originally I saw it as another sort of like short-term get rich quick scheme. However, when I analyze my introduction to the software sales space and a lot of the content on Twitter where people that have lack of sales experience as well as that traditional formal degree to get past that barrier to entry, I identified
Yeah.
a gap in the marketplace as it relates to tech sales. And contract stacking, the way we label it, SDR contract stacking, that is sourcing 1099 for my US folks, independent contractor, SDR roles for self-funded and early stage startup companies, right?
Mhm.
There's sort of two routes to paint a broad stroke of, bootstrapping the organization or going the private equity / VC route. Well, with a lot of these bootstrapped organizations, very similar to my first SDR role, the first time founder most likely comes from a technical background, is sort of looking to
Yeah.
establish a go-to-market strategy and building qualified pipeline and market penetration. Well, he's wearing multiple hats at the end of the day, right? He's kind of spread
Yeah.
thin between possible investor meetings, marketing, product, etc. Sort of the last thing that's on his plate is micromanaging that sales development representative. So there's a list of websites, a lot of freelancer websites where these first-time founders are looking for SDRs, essentially to
Hmm.
outsource that initial speed to market introduction to bringing their product to the marketplace. Where in 2024, going into 2025, with AI and power dialers and all the automations available to us in terms of prospecting tools, there's an
Yeah.
opportunity for the sales development representative or the software sales representative to work on one of these SDR contracts 100% remote, automate a lot of the workflows when it comes to simple things like lead list building or the
Yeah.
number of dials that you can make per day, layering in some of the methodologies we share inside of my community as far as prospecting goes. You can effectively reduce the amount of labor hours that you're dedicating to each individual SDR contract, right? And there's
Nice.
some training and skill involved to take something like a 40-hour contract as an SDR and reduce the amount of labor hours to 15, maybe 20 hours per week, right? At the end of the day, the 40-hour work week, if we're all honest with ourselves and ask the question, are we truly dedicating 40 hours to our job? Most likely
Yeah.
the answer is no, right?
Right.
So that space is essentially you can work on multiple SDR contracts. It's 100% legal as an independent contractor and
Yeah.
scale as many what we would call billable hours, right? Just like a lawyer or maybe an agency, to where you can pick up a part-time, a full-time contract and effectively out earn a majority of corporate SDR roles in terms of compensation.
Oh yeah. No, that's amazing. And the autonomy that affords is really attractive too. And if I understand right, it sounds like, I mean, one, just like being a hired gun, I think would be awesome, and being able to kind of call your own shots, set your own schedule, that type of deal. But it sounds like as a contract SDR, most of the time, like you're investing in your own technology stack, so you can choose whatever you want from a tooling perspective, and then are the terms of the contract really mostly like outcome driven, like it's not so much an hourly commitment, but it's more like X amount of meetings per month, per quarter, what have you?
We optimize for hourly contracts. However, a majority of these early stage companies, to be frank with you, do not have their KPIs dialed in.
Right.
They are in a situation where a lot of the times they don't even have their first customer, right?
Yeah.
They're truly looking for market feedback, just the ability to build some sort of pipeline to get an idea of total addressable market. So that I would say is a majority of the contracts that you will get yourself into in the experience where you have the ability to build it from the ground up. However,
Hmm.
some of the higher value contracts in terms of hourly rates, when you go up to things like $35 an hour, 40, maybe $50 an hour, there definitely is more KPIs involved in terms of performance.
Got it. What is the pay range typically?
It's very much the wild, wild west, which plays into the branding of Desperado.
Yeah.
You can go as low as I've seen $15 an hour for a part-time sort of fractional SDR role, and
Yeah.
contracts go all the way up to, I'd say, about $50 per hour.
Nice. Excellent. So in Desperado Sales Group, is placing people in these roles and sourcing these roles for people part of it, or is it more like just enabling people as to like how to find these opportunities, how to negotiate the contract, and those types of things?
The latter.
Okay.
So no placements inside of the community.
Yeah.
Um, just in terms of my personal capacity, working on the side of these early stage companies is not an option at this point or attractive to me.
Yeah.
However, supplying people with the information in terms of identifying what's a good fit versus not, how to
Yeah.
conduct the interview, and ultimately set up the infrastructure to succeed.
Nice. Excellent. So you give them some guidance as far as like, here's where you find these opportunities. There's probably a networking element within the group as well. Like the members of the group, they're probably, hey, we need another person at my company, who's looking for something, that type of deal. But it sounds like you help with some of the negotiation and contracting, like here's what to look for, here's the red flags. But then also the operationalizing that work where they're able to like, compound their outputs. So it's like they're doing the work of 3 people.
Wow.
Am I understanding that right? Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Good
Yep.
deal. That sounds pretty cool. What else are you guys doing in that group?
Yeah, so the community is really based around the newbie salesman. So folks that
Okay.
are looking to break into corporate roles, BDR
Mhm.
roles, transitioning from BDR to account executive, and SDR contract stacking is going to be the primary.
So that's the end of part 1 with Fidel Cache Flow. Tune in next week for the second part of our conversation with Fidel, where we talk more about contract stacking and like what it is, how to do it, who should do it, who it's a good fit for. And then we talk about like his career. He's very driven career-wise. And so I just wanted to get a feel for like his plan. And so we talk a little bit about career strategy for account executives. And really interesting conversation, interesting guy. To support the podcast, please like and subscribe and comment and share. And tune in next week for part 2 with Fidel Cache Flow. Bye. Appreciate you.